Yeah. Once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kens TV and the House Like Kitchen Sinks. Now, before I get into this afternoon story, if you will, understand that I'm the self-proclaimed Mr. 30 Minutes or Better, meaning that anytime I drop a story, it's guaranteed to be 30 minutes or better. So if you're on your way to work, you're at work, you don't feel like being there, as we so often don't. You're on your way home from work, you need to laugh, you need to cry. Perhaps you're trying to lay down and take a nap, depending on whatever time you're listening to or viewing this video. Or you're just in the mood for a good old-fashioned true, keyword being true, penitentiary / life story / life experience. If you prefer your 8 to 12 to 15-minute videos, absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But at Real Kens TV, it's 30 minutes or better. So with all that being said, with all that wrapped up into one big old nutshell, pause, double pause. There is a message. Before I get into today's story, man, y'all jump in the comment section. Let me know where you're chiming in from. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, man. Let me know what city and state you're representing and what hood you're representing and what set you're representing. Y'all jump in that comment section for me, man, if you rocking with Real Kens. Today, I'm going to bring you a story about a young man named Durl. Durl was born in New York. Not exactly sure which city in New York, but shout out to New York. All the boroughs, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, son? This individual, Durl, was, we're going to go back to childhood, adolescence, 4 years old. Like so many kids, you know, in the inner cities of America, Durl didn't have a father. Yeah, he had a father at one point, but his father ended up catching a case in the feds around the time Durl was 4 years old. Distribution, trafficking, you know, it's drug related, and was taken down to the home. 4 years old, given a 20-year sentence. Durl had a younger brother, and the younger brother, you know, he obviously you look up to your older brother. You're gonna try to, you know, emulate what your older brother does in a lot of instances, in a lot of situations. Durl's mother, Tracy, she was doing the best that she could do. Now, she wasn't a saint by any stretch of the imagination, but she was doing the best that she could do to raise her two kids, especially without a father in the home. As time progressed, she goes on to meet an individual named Tex, Tex. Now, Tex was a heavy hitter. He was in the streets. You know, he was doing his thing, man. He was making that money. He was bringing in money, man. The two of them, you know, they hit it off. But the thing about when you date someone in the streets, the relationship is already somewhat tumultuous, because when you're dating someone in the streets, you have to be able to accept, although you may not like it, but if you're going to date them, you have to be able to accept what comes along with that. Yeah, the money's good, the money's fast, but it's going to be times you can't get in touch with him. It's going to be days he doesn't come in, and if he does, it's late, then he's right back up the next day because he's on the block, he's on the grind. There's going to be other women involved. That's just part of dating a street dude. So as I mentioned, the relationship is already challenging, to say the least. And then you throw in the fact that Tex and Durl are not necessarily getting along. Not sure exactly what the issue was. Perhaps Durl just longed for his father, as so many of us did. See, when I was coming up, I didn't have a father in the household as well. And any opportunity that I got to spend with my father, it was a joyous time. So, you know, if I was able to go over and spend the weekend with him, guess what? All the times he didn't pick me up, all the times that, you know, he had made an excuse why he couldn't pick me up. And I'm not saying anything bad about my father. I'm just giving you all the real. It made up for it. I remember one particular instance, and this is a side note, but it correlates with the story. Dad, can I come over? He was like, I would, son, but we don't have no beds. They had just moved into a new house, and they hadn't set like the beds up, but it had carpet. I said, that's okay, Dad, man. I sleep on the floor. Heck, I sleep on the floor sometimes anyway. And I did. And it was just an excuse after excuse, and I didn't end up getting to go that weekend. But so I understand longing for your father. That was the reason that I told you all that little piece of history. Two of them are not necessarily getting along. And by the time Durl was in the 8th grade, he really started to somewhat act out. You know, getting in trouble at school, getting in fights, cursing the teachers out. So in 8th grade, he's about 14 years old at this particular moment, this particular juncture in time. And he was starting to get out of control. In the meanwhile, his mother, Tracy, she became pregnant by Tex. Pregnant with twins. Durl's really acting out at this point. Not only does he not like this individual that his mother's dating, you gonna go and get pregnant? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Yes, she did. Fez is watching. Fez is watching every move that Tex makes. He's under a federal investigation. She would come home and she would notice odd cars would be parked on the streets. And in her mind, I think that Tracy somewhat knew that we're being watched. They're watching the house. But then you tell yourself, nah, I'm tripping, man. They're not watching the house like that. Even the neighbors noticed. The neighbors tried to warn Tracy that they were watching the house. Tracy didn't really think too much of it. One morning, early morning, probably 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, they come kick the door in. They got the dogs. When them feds come, they come deep. And they come ready. Kick the door in. They look for anything illegal that they can find. They don't find anything in the house. They end up taking Tex to jail. He's under investigation. Hit him with a RICO Act. They take her in for questioning. She stands tall in the paint. Tracy stands tall in the paint. Man, I don't know nothing. Okay, well, we're going to take your kids away. It's the first thing they're going to do. Threaten you with women. When you get involved in these sort of illegal activities, or you're just around an individual and you're allowing that person to operate in and out of your home, knowing what they do, first thing they're going to threaten you with is the kids. Again, Tracy stands tall. Man, I don't know what y'all talking about. Luckily for her, her family was able to step in and take the kids. And you have an individual, which was Tracy's brother, named Don. Shout out to Don. Don is the individual that brought me this story, man. Don brought me this story. He's a frequent watcher, a friend. I consider all of y'all friends. And so if you have a story that you want to bring me, my number is 859-551-5122. Don actually hit me up on my line, told me this story, and I told him that I would get to it. I read the story, I was interested in it, and here we are. But nevertheless, Don stepped in. He took temporary custody of Durl and his younger brother. Another family member took the twins. Although the kids were somewhat separated, they still remained close because they were, a close-knit family. Don had just retired from the military. He was stable. And he wanted to show Durl what it was like to actually be a man, to actually have a real life father figure. After all, the two men that Durl was familiar with, his father, he's in the feds, serving 20 years since he was 4 years old, as I mentioned. Now you have Tex. He's in the feds with a pending RICO case. He didn't like Tex anyway. Tex apparently didn't like him. So as all this is going on, Tex ends up getting life without parole in the feds. They tied him to, not only did they tie him to a whole lot of drug activity on the streets, then there was some murders, and there was a whole lot of violence, and good night, Irene. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Booked him. Book him, Dano. He's gone forever. Youngsters, I want you all to understand that when the feds give you life, it's life. Sometimes in the state you can get a life sentence, but it doesn't really mean life depending on what type of life sentence you get and what state that you're in. But it's never good to have life attached to your name regardless. I can't even imagine that. Nevertheless, during this process, Durl's trying to get the kids to really, understand what life is all about, having a man in your life, showing them how to be young, responsible men. I believe he accomplished his goal. Keeps the kids for a little while. His sister, Tracy, she's getting things back in order. So eventually she gets all the kids back. They're all in one household once again. But at this point, Durl, he's did graduate high school, was doing the right thing. He decides he wants to go back to the streets. Peer pressure, friends. Sees his friends doing, getting this fast money and stealing cars and toting the pistols. He should have been going to college somewhere. You see, his uncle Don tried his best to get him to enter the military. Remember I said Don had just retired from the military. Dude was a gorilla, man. 5'9", 260. Well, in my book, he was a couple inches taller, so we're just going to say that Durl was 5'11", 260. Everybody's 5'11" at Real Kens TV. Y'all rock with me. So you got this kid, got all the talent in the world, all the potential in the world, nothing but family structure and support around him. Not to make excuses for him, but he's still longing for his father. He's out one day with a couple of his friends. They riding around, they get pulled over. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. I'm riding around, we getting it. They get pulled over. Since y'all riding around, y'all getting it. Respectfully. Police, they run the tags and information on the vehicle. The vehicle's stolen. Of course, they didn't know the vehicle was stolen. Nobody knew the vehicle was stolen. They found a firearm in the vehicle. Nobody knows who the firearm is. So guess what? Everybody's going to jail. They go to jail. Durl's first offense. He's going through the process. He's facing 5 to 10 or what have you. He ends up getting a 2-year sentence. Well, he ends up serving 2 years. He serves 2 years. His family's still there to support him. His Uncle Don is still trying to, guide him and teach him as he's been doing pretty much, his whole life. Don was very disappointed in his nephew, Durl. But at the same time, he wasn't ready to give up on him. He was still there for him. Durl comes home after serving 2 years. He's doing the right thing. He's doing everything that he promised to do. See, oftentimes when you're in jail, we write these letters because we don't have a lot of other things to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you're in jail, you do stay busy because they make you work and go to school and all of these things. So it's not like you're just sitting around all day long. But you really have time to really, really reflect and think about some things, and you're sober. And you're writing all these apologies and all of these promises. When I come home, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And so your family, they give you another chance. They believe in you. Sometimes people come home and they do what they say they're going to do. But oftentimes, put it this way, the recidivism rate is off the charts, off the chain. Recidivism just means you return back to prison. Most people don't do what they say they're going to do, and they end up doing the exact same thing that they did that brought them to prison in the first place. Durl was an adult at this point. Yeah, you're still a kid in your parents' eyes, 18, 19, 20, 21. But in the eyes of society, once you're 18 years old, you a man. He meets a young lady named Keisha. Keisha was cool. Keisha had a small child. Only problem with Keisha, and not to pass judgment on anyone, because we all have our demons that we're fighting. We all have, things that we need to improve upon, if you will. Keisha was an alcoholic. Loved to drink. Loved to get a party on. Well, they're young. Now, you can't make excuses just because we're young. There's responsibility that we all have to, at some point, we have to become responsible. Set aside the childish games, especially when there's kids involved. The two of them would often go out and just party. Durl started to drink heavily just as well. So you got two individuals that are young that's out partying all the time. And with alcohol typically comes arguing, violence. Not all the time, but typically there's violence involved when you have two individuals that are constantly drinking that way. They were partying so much, and I guess in a sense, the mother, Tracy, she would I guess between Tracy and Keisha's mother would keep the child. So I guess it was somewhat of a enabling them to go out and act the way that they acted. After many arguments, they get into it, and basically Keisha tells him, you're out of here. I want you gone. Durl stays gone for a few days. He comes back only to discover that the locks on the doors are changed. I know baby didn't change the locks. Hold on. My baby didn't change the locks on me. And she's not trying to let him in. I wonder if somebody's in here. Somebody got to be in here. He sneaks in through the window. Evidently, Keisha was so heavily involved and engulfed in what she was doing on the inside of that house in her bed with this other individual, she didn't even notice that Durl was coming through the window. Remember, Durl's a big dude, man. He's 5'11", 260. He catches him in the act. Literally in the act. Freaking. Doing the nasty. He beats both of them up bad. He don't just beat them up and like he busts them both up. Police is called. Now there's a warrant out for Durl for assault. They're looking for him. There was no weapon involved, but at the same time, he had a warrant out on him. Serious felony. Police end up catching up with him. His bond is $10,000. His Uncle Don is begging his sister. He's begging Tracy, don't bond him out. See, in a lot of places, if your bond is, say, $10,000, it's really $1,000. It's 10%. If it's $100,000, it's really $10,000. In Kentucky, if your bond's $10,000, it's $10,000, unless the judge steps in and says, okay, I'm going to reduce your bond to 10%, which is $1,000. Or release you, on your own recognizance, or give you a property bond. Or if it's not directly given from the judge, your bond is what it says your bond is. Don wasn't trying to hate on his nephew. He just wanted to show him some tough love. I've been trying to teach this kid, man. And you can't continue to just be his safety net and bond him out every single time. Tracy went against what her brother, what he felt. Sold a lot of her things, did what she had to do, got him an attorney. So now, to retract or just to make sure everybody's on the same page as far as Durl, he served 2 years for getting caught in the vehicle that was stolen with the firearms. Comes home, catches a case for beating up his ex-girlfriend, Keisha, and the whatever dude that was in the house with Keisha. After she changed the locks, he comes through the windows. Mom bonds him out. Comes home for about a month. He's doing the right thing. He's sending the same letters that he sent before, the promising message. I'm going to do right this time. I promise I'm going to do right. Now you facing 5 to 10, man. Again. Somehow, some way, he comes across a judge that's somewhat lenient. The judge believes in this young man. Young man, if you wasn't 5'11", you would not be getting this grace from me. But the fact that Durl was 5'11", the judge believed in him. He's going back and forth to court. Yes, sir. No, sir. Probably has an opportunity at probation. See, in Kentucky, if you catch an assault charge, man, I don't care what judge you get, man. Your ass is, you going to the joint, the Jake. There's no doubt that you can buy your way out of trouble in New York City. But in the state of Mississippi, we take murder very serious. But that's what we're trying to tell you, Sheriff Pike. We ain't murder nobody. That man was already like that. That man was dead. Now the booze is ours. The booze is ours. But Spanky Johnson, that man was already like that. If you two fellas are telling the truth, then you don't have anything to worry about. I'll see you boys in the morning. What time you gonna be here? I'm subject to just come with a movie role at any given time. That's probably one of my favorite movies ever. Life. Temperature's about 100 degrees. Y'all know about that life, man. Reckon I'd fly away. Should have been a love slave. Tell me, how did I get life? So he's doing all of the things, Durl. He's doing all the things that he says he's going to do. One day he's on Facebook. Individual jumps on Facebook. Hey, man, y'all know I can get some, I'm looking for some smoke, some green. Durl bites. He goes to meet the individual that he didn't know, never met, and didn't have a clue who he was. I guess Durl had the hookup on the smoke, on the green. He goes and meets this individual. Everything's all good. Till people hop out, from everywhere. Police jump out from everywhere. It was an undercover sting. Undercover, I guess, social media operation. Locks him up, undercover. Speaking with an undercover the whole time. Now he's locked up, goes back before the same judge that was lenient, that believed in him. There's a possibility he was going to get probation, as I previously mentioned. And you got 2 pending cases. Judge can't take it easy on him this time. 10 to 15, man. State pen, New York. I'm from New York. New York. That's where you going, man. That's where Durl ultimately went. 10 to 15 years, man. Don feels a sense of guilt. And he's like, Ken's, man, I did everything that I could do, but yet I still feel guilty. I feel like that some of this is partially my fault. My thing is this, Don. And not just Don, for everyone that has a story to tell like this, or that have gone through something like this, you can only do so much. If you know in your heart that you did everything that you could possibly do to help that kid out, you can't blame yourself. You can raise a kid in church. You can raise a kid to say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Make sure they go to school. Make sure that, they have maybe not everything that they want. Kids should never have everything that they want, but everything that they need, they're well provided for. But at the end of the day, once a kid reaches a certain age, if you will, and they start to venture out and they start to become involved in the streets or drugs or alcohol or, gambling, whatever the case may be, and you recognize that, you can do whatever you can do to step in and to help. But essentially, it's up to the kid to want that help. It's up to the kid to decide, I wasn't raised this way. This is not the direction that I need to go in. Yeah, you continue to try to counsel them. You do whatever that you can do. But when you've done everything that you could do, and the kid decides to go on and go left, you can't sit around blaming yourself. Are there instances where it's the parent's fault? Yeah, because there's instances where the parent hasn't done enough, or they gave the kid every single thing that they wanted, and they pretty much allowed the kid to run things. But in this particular situation, it's not your fault by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the other 2 kids, well, the other 3 kids, the younger brother, he ended up going to the military, as Don wanted Durl to do. He's striving. He's thriving. He's doing well in the military. And then the 2 twins, they're in college. Although you want to see all of your kids, 4 out of 4 kids all do well. 3 out of the 4 are doing well in life, man. Sometimes you got to go sit down for a little bit, man. Sometimes your higher power, whatever your higher power may be, whoever your higher power may be, sometimes your higher power may put you in a predicament or a situation in which, I've been trying to talk to you, son. Gave you a couple chances, you just wouldn't listen to me. So now I'm going to put you in a situation. You put yourself really in the situation. But now that you're in this situation, now you have no choice but to listen to me. You have no choice but to hear me. Just because you go to prison, no, it's not a good thing to go to prison. It's not a good thing to be a convicted felon. It's not a good thing because there's so many things, unless your name is Donald Trump, there's so many things that you're not able to do. Especially while you're still on parole. You're on parole, you can't get life insurance. Think about that. You're on parole, you can't get life insurance. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm not asking for any sort of sympathy or empathy or anything of the nature. I'm just pointing out to people that didn't know. Crime has nothing to do with life insurance scams, schemes, or what have you. If you're on parole, you can't get life insurance. If you're on parole, you can't get a passport. You can't go to different countries. Yeah, you might be able to take a cruise, but as far as like actual land, you can't get a passport. Now they say that in different states it's kind of up to the parole office and the parole officer. But I'm speaking in Kentucky, you can't get there. You're not getting a passport when you're on parole. Can't vote. A lot of people don't care about voting anyway. I'm not saying that voting's not important. I'm just giving you all the perspective of a lot of people. The voting thing, that doesn't really bother most people. Although everybody should vote, in my opinion. You'll never get your gun rights back. You'll never legally be able to possess a firearm unless you get a pardon, either while you're in jail, which is very, very difficult to do. When you come home from jail and you stay out for a while, maybe. If your crime is in Kentucky, you can have your record expunged, but your crime has to be certain crimes. If you did this, then you can't get an expungement. And that takes forever. You're going to have to get an attorney. That's going to cost money. But besides that, you're never getting your gun rights back. Anything that you try to do, if you try to go to school and you want to, let's just say, I'm very good with numbers. I'm very good with math. I want to be an accountant. Well, you're going to go to school to become an accountant just to not even be able to get hired. Because who's going to hire a convicted felon as an accountant in their firm? Lawyer, doctor. So typically you end up working, the fast food, or you end up, working in a factory, or you end up, doing some hard labor, construction. These are the type of jobs that you end up with as a convicted felon. Now, I'm not knocking those jobs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying because it's better than working in prison, because they're going to make you do the same sort of jobs in prison. Being a janitor. Only difference is out here you make $12, $15, $16 an hour. In prison, in Kentucky, you're going to make $26, $27 a month for doing the exact same thing that you could be doing out here in the free world. I understand life gets difficult. Life gets challenging. Life gets outright just hard sometimes. But turning to the streets, turning to crime is never, ever the way to go. Temporary fix, that fast money that you aspire to have. Yeah. But look at the risk versus the rewards. What if you don't get away with it? Man, ain't no way I can get caught. It's an easy lick. There's no such thing as an easy lick. And let me tell you why. Because even if it does go as planned and you get away with it that first time, guess what? It's an easy lick. So the next time you're in that situation, guess what? You're thinking about that easy lick. So many people in penitentiary right now doing 30, 40, 50 years at 85%, meaning they have to do 85% of their time because they thought that they had an easy lick. Life just doesn't work that way, man. Youngsters, listen to your parents. Listen to your uncles, your aunts, your people around you that really care about you. Because the streets don't care about you, man. If your friends are trying to get you to do something, they're riding in a stolen car and they got stolen guns, or they had guns, period, or drugs in the car, they're not really your friends, because friends are not going to even put you in that predicament. If this is what you want to do with your life, then go ahead and do it. But when you're bringing other individuals into your lifestyle, that's not a true friend, unless you're doing something that's positive in life. I want to give a shout out to Don's sister Tracy. And these are actual names. Don said these is everybody's real names. Oftentimes, man, when you find yourself in a situation to where life is not going well and you lose your kids and your significant others locked up and you're, the father of your kids, that gives you all the excuses in the world to go out here and not necessarily do what's right. Now, Don admittedly said that Tracy wasn't a saint herself. But at some point, she did what she had to do to get her kids back. She did what she had to do because one of her kids is in the military. She did what she had to do because two of her kids are in college. Not sure what New York's parole system's like. I believe New York has parole. But being that Durl got 10 to 15, I don't know how many years that he's actually going to have to do on that 10 to 15 years. Whatever the case may be, he still has an opportunity. He still has a chance to turn his life around, but you have to really, really want it, man. If you come out here thinking you can do the exact same thing that got you in there, only thing you're doing is you might as well just stay in there. You're just taking a furlough. You're taking a furlough and you're going to come back with a boatload more time. So you might as well just stay in there, serve your sentence out, get your mind right, find your higher power, get strong, get certified in something, welding, plumbing, electricity, becoming an electrician, cutting hair if they offer that there. Figure out something to do in which you come home and you have a trade, a skill. Because if you're in there and you're not getting your mind right and you sitting around playing dominoes and chess and playing poker all day and playing basketball and running tickets and gambling on the games, I did all of those things, man. All of those things I did. Spades. I ain't really play dominoes too much. I know how to play. I don't really like dominoes for whatever reason. That's a very, very popular game in prison. The point that I'm making is, if you're not using your time wisely, and you're on the phone every other day, and you're begging for money, and you're cussing your girl out because she couldn't send you $30, or she didn't make it a visit, or you're not becoming a better person. Get your mind right, Durl. And all the individuals that are like Durl. Get your mind right if you find yourself in prison. Your life is not over with. Yeah, it's going to be more challenging than what it already is, but guess what? You got another shot. Because as I mentioned before, there's dudes 20, 21, 22, 25, 30, 27, 28 sitting in the penitentiary now wishing they had another opportunity in life. I know you all see the videos and dudes on there and they making their spreads. They got their cell phones. They got their money. They making it like prison is a fun place to be. Man, prison is dangerous. It's miserable. One of the most miserable places you can ever be. I believe that prison is the closest thing to death. Because oftentimes when people in prison, you don't really talk to them that much, and the only thing you really have is memories. Same way if somebody's gone off the face of this earth. What do you have? Pictures, memories. Penitentiary, they showing pictures. Hey, look right here. Yeah. I had them Yeezys on this. Yeah. Oh, man, look at all that money I had, you know what I'm saying, sticking out of my pockets, man. Yeah, I had the Impala sitting on them things. Yeah. It's always what I had, what I used to do. Now you don't have any of those things. So is it really, really worth it for some memories? Being away from your family, being away from your kids, your loved ones, your girl, to be around a bunch of hard ankles all day long, showering around men all day. What Lil Wayne say back in the day, I'd rather to be pushing flowers than be in the pen sharing showers. Basically, he's saying he'd rather be unalive, man. In the ground. Once again, shout out to Don. I appreciate the story that you brought me. It's a great story. It's a great an example. There's millions of Durls around the world, man. Millions of Durls around the world, man. And if you have a story that you want me to share, I can't share every single story. I get stories on a regular basis. I've already put my number out there. Hit me up, man. I answer the phone. If you want to email me, realkenstv at Yahoo. realkenstv at Yahoo. Whatever the case may be, let's get the message out here to these kids that these streets is just not where you want to be. Once again, shout out to Don. Shout out to New York. Shout out to Tracy. Shout out to everybody that rocks with Real Kens TV. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive, man. And when y'all hear the noise, it's just my seat, okay? Kens, man, he cut one. No, it's just the seat. It just makes a lot of noise. I don't know, man. And shout out to everybody that's 5'11", which is everybody. Real Kens TV.